Thank you, sir, and thank you, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the CDA Selection Committee to order today at 4:03 p.m. on May 16th, 2023. Jackie, could you please call the roll?
Sure. Grace Kyung,
Present.
Christine Ingracia,
Present.
Bill Rata,
Present.
Chair Noel Pfeffer.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum.
And let the record show that the comptroller's appointee, Ryan Coleman, can no longer represent the comptroller's office on account of him transferring to the Board of Aldermen, but we do still have quorum. With that, let's move on to the second item on our agenda, approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion now. And these minutes should be in the drive. And if anyone needs access to them, does everyone have access to them?
These were the minutes from, can you remind me which one they are, Noel? Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right one.
I believe that they're the minutes from, if I'm not mistaken, March 23rd, 2023. Is that right?
That is correct. I believe it's the last, if I'm not mistaken, if that either was the last meeting or the last meeting that we had, we did not have a quorum. I hope I'm not mistaken that with one of my other boards.
No, I think that's exactly right, Jackie.
I move that we approve the minutes from the March 23rd, 2023 meeting.
Do I have a second?
I will second that. Sorry, the only reason I am pausing here is I do notice 2 minutes, one for environmental services, one for home repair and manual services. So we are approving the home repair one, correct?
That's exactly right. And to refresh everyone's memory, what happened is that with the first half of the meeting was one selection committee held to make a selection for an environmental review professional services agreement, whereas the second half of the selection committee was a different set of appointees meeting to issue those two RFPs.
All right, so Noel, yeah, I will need you to distinctly, which set are you requesting the motion on?
For the home repair and manual drafting services selection committee held on March 23rd, 2023 at 10:30 a.m.
I'll rescind my earlier motion.
Okay,
And I will move the motion for what Noel just shared at the 10:30 a.m. meeting.
thank you, Grace.
A motion to approve.
Second.
Jackie, can you please call the roll?
Sure. Grace Kyung,
Aye.
Christine Ingracia,
Aye.
Bill Rata,
Aye.
and Chair Noel Pfeffer.
Hi.
been approved.
Thank you. So with that, we'll move to the discussion of RFPs. And the first RFP for us to discuss is the policies and procedures drafting services. And we did receive one response here, which I'll ask Bill Rata to discuss. And then we have a couple of different options in terms of how we move forward, which we can discuss as a committee. But Bill, why don't you just provide an overview of the response to kick us off?
Sure. Okay. So we asked for manuals to do three, or I guess to look at three different areas that we need help in, and in no certain order. Davis Bacon monitoring. We've talked about this before, but I'll just real quickly just mention it's a pretty complex federal and HUD requirement that's applicable to any construction project over $2,000. Requires that workers have to be paid a prevailing wage, and then we have to monitor the payrolls of both the general and any subcontractors that are on the project. And that includes conducting interviews of workers, on site to make sure they're being paid the proper amount, not just what's being reported to us. And we can order wage restitution to be made if the worker is being paid at what the less than what the federal established rate for that position calls for. And then asset management, just a day-to-day manual for rental projects that CDA has in its portfolio. And there's various compliance periods that can range from anywhere from 5 years to 30 years. Maybe, somewhat longer in the future, maybe up to 40 years is a possibility. We've had a lot of turnover as far as staff. We were without an asset manager for quite some time. So this would be a good training tool for us, and it'll help us make sure that we're covered, so to speak, in all the HUD compliance requirements. And we had previously issued an RP for both of these things, but we had not received a response until now. And then the last one was for a state and local fiscal rescue fund, just a policies and procedures manual for that project. Just knowing that there's a lot of attention that's going to be paid to these funds. We want to make sure we get it right. There's deadlines, there's compliance requirements and things like that. So that's an overview of what we needed the services for. So as Noel mentioned, we only received one response. It's from Life Happens. They are currently a provider who is working with us right now. They produced one manual for us so far, which was an update to what we called our operating agency fiscal procedures manual. It's basically geared for subrecipients, but it's also a good tool for staff. She actually included that in her proposal, I guess, to give us a sample of what her work products look like. So we haven't had a chance to fully digest that yet, but just at first glance, it looks very nice, very professional, much better than the document it's replacing. And then she's also working on a manual for us as we speak. Noel, Rashawn, and I had a meeting with her earlier today. And that's moving along forward. We're pleased with the progress. So the various prices she submitted was $120,000 for the Davis-Bacon manual, $156,000 for the asset management manual, and then for the Slurfa manual, that was also $156,000. So I know Noel wanted to discuss some other things about this, but I will say just worth mentioning that Life Happens is a 100% MBE, 100% WBE organization, and they are the only state, or I guess the only technical MBE WB writer in the entire state. So I'll turn that over to Noel.
Thanks for that overview, Bill. And I think we have a couple of options here. And I'll also zoom out and share that I think in retrospect, it may have been a mistake to aggregate 3 distinct scopes of work into a single RFP. I think it made it a little bit more difficult to really get this RFP out and circulate it in the appropriate networks. And I think that in particular with the ARPA scope of work, developing an ARPA policies and procedures manual, we really want to get applicants with kind of national practices that can share some of the policies and procedures that they've seen in other cities, and can really help us apply some of those best practices. So one of my requests and recommendations will be to reissue an RFP fully focused on ARPA policies and procedures and developing those and try to circulate those for more bids. With respect to the Davis-Bacon and asset management portions of the RFP and the response, I do think Life Happens has done great work with us in the past, is doing great work with us now. And I'd be entirely open to awarding those two now at this meeting, but I would really like to invite the committee's input and listen to their guidance if they do think that additional bids would be helpful. I do think that we can presently move forward with some work that was awarded previously. So I would just want to listen to the will of the committee.
I guess a immediate question I have, Noel, based on your suggestion is, and you can let me know this is the thought that came across my brain. Is there one of the three that is most urgent for CDA that they need support on sooner than later?
Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would guess asset management. Would you agree?
Yes, I would agree with that.
And then is
And
there a reason why you chose to include Davis-Bacon? Is it that you think they have capacity to do both and ARPA is the larger scope?
I do. I think that Life Happens has demonstrated a significant experience and expertise with HUD rules and regulations, which is why I do think they're a great fit for those two elements of the scope. Again, I think our options are to award those two elements now, or alternative and reissue the ARPA component of the RFP, or perhaps only one, to your point, Grace, perhaps just the asset management given its urgency, um, or alternatively to reissue these in separate RFPs so that we can market them more effectively.
When you mention marketing more effectively, what does that look like? And is that something that we can help with?
Please, I think it's something that requires us all to work together. I know that one thing that I'm going to be doing, frankly, with the ARPA policies and procedures is probably reaching out to some of my old law professors and asking if they know anyone who might be able to help, and just trying to get it onto a national network so that we can really learn from some of those best practices. Again, I'm focused on the ARPA side here.
Sure. If CDA is comfortable with awarding one or two to the organization that you know already has the experience, I'm okay with that to get them started. I'm amenable to either, but I do think from what you've passed along today that it might make sense to at least reissue the ARPA piece.
Great. If that is the committee's will, I'd be delighted to go down that path. So I'm ready to entertain a motion. If so, or do you all want me to make the motion?
You could restate the recommendation.
Okay, I'll restate the recommendation. My recommendation is to authorize CDA to enter into contracts with Life Happens for the Davis-Bacon and asset management manuals, substantially in accordance with the response to be negotiated by CDA. And to authorize CDA, well, actually, let's separate the question. That's the first motion.
So moved.
Second.
Jackie, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Grace Keung,
Aye.
Christine Gracia,
Aye.
Bill Rata,
I,
and Chair Noel Pfeffer.
Aye. And then let's, the next recommendation is to authorize CDA to reissue a RFP for the ARPA scope of work included in the previously issued RFP. We won't change the scope of work It'll be substantially identical, and we'll share that with the committee once it's drafted as well. But we would like that authority to issue it today.
So moved.
Second,
Jackie, could you please call the roll?
Sure. Just a moment. Grace Kim,
aye.
Christine Ingracia.
Aye.
Bill Rata,
I,
Chair Noel Pfeffer.
Aye. And so with that, that's that item on the agenda. Let's move on now to the next item on our agenda, which is the Home Repair Disbursement Services RFP. And we did not receive any responses to this RFP. So the request that we have today is that the committee authorize us to extend it and keep it open for another month through June 15th.
I'm fine with that. I'm also curious what we can be doing to find organizations that might be interested in partnering with the city on this project.
Bill, I'd love to invite you to comment because I know you did some outreach to title companies, and I do wonder if there's anything that they flagged or anything that we can do differently.
yeah, so, thank you, Noel. I talked to 3 title companies, directly who had expressed interest in bidding on this. So I was very hopeful, encouraged that we would, get not just one proposal, but multiple proposals. We didn't receive any. We did get questions that were submitted by a couple of them, and we posted those questions. I think one of the concerns was, and what maybe one of the title companies who I thought was really going to bid kind of turned them off, so to speak, was they did not want to issue 1099s for the contractors. And I think they thought there would be, like hundreds and hundreds of them. But really, you're maybe talking 30, maybe 50. And we did check with the comptroller's office to make sure that they would have to do that as opposed to the comptroller's office doing that, because comptroller's office does it now, since they're the ones that cut the checks. But since the title company would be issuing the checks, the comptroller's office and the title company would have to do it. So I think that was one of the issues, at least for one of the title companies. I don't know about the other 2.
Is there anything we can do to ameliorate that concern? Or
I think if we tweaked it a little bit and we can mention that is a requirement, but we can state, how many we anticipate, and then it wouldn't be overly burdensome, and certainly they should factor that into their price, I think, as well. And then maybe just, kind of adding or addressing the questions that were asked by the other, ones who had made inquiries within the body of the RFP itself, so that additional title companies that see that, they'll see those answers.
that makes sense. I'd love to have a motion authorizing us to reissue it with those changes. But also welcome the committee's ideas in terms of other ways that we may be able to get stronger responses or any responses.
My only concern would be if the questions were already asked and answered and they still weren't satisfied, is it going to be enough just to have it included in the RFP? Is there something more we need to do? The 1099 piece seems a little odd to me. There's not much to issuing a 1099. It's a pretty simple process. Yeah, so I'm curious if, to your point, Bill, I mean, if there were like hundreds or thousands of them, it could be time consuming, but other than that, it's a pretty easy thing to get done. If there was something else maybe that they weren't communicating.
Yeah, I don't know, and I'm just guessing on that too. I mean, I'm that's the vibe I was picking up, at least from the questions I was getting from that one particular title company, but I think, you know, we can probably just let them know it's been reissued. And, you know, we did add a section on 1099s. And, you know, just let them all know that. I mean, I think it's worth a shot. And then we can kind of do some, you know, cold calling, I'll say, of different title companies as well to see if they're interested.
Are there other cities or governments that are doing something similar that have had more success?
So one thing that I'll note is that we presently use a title company on all of our housing production contracts. With respect to home repair, I don't know. We can ask some of our peer cities such as Detroit or others, but I'm not aware. They may well be. I think it's pretty common practice, but I don't know about any identical program.
Yeah, I've not heard of that before, not to say that it doesn't happen, but I would be kind of surprised if it was. I think a lot of cities do the programs differently than we do, so, and I don't know if they're seeing the kind of volume that we're seeing either, so they may not, you know, have a need for it. And their payment process may be simpler than ours too.
I do believe that the mayor's office is engaged in reaching out to additional title companies as well. So I'm hopeful that that yields some results. But we need to open it back up in order to see. If we open it back up and then come back again in a month and still don't have a response, then I'm with you that there's something more structural going on and we need to reassess more fundamentally. But we'd like the chance to try and get a response.
I'll make a motion to reissue the RFP, including changes that Bill Rata just recommended as additions.
I will second it. I think so.
Jackie, could you please call the roll?
Grace Young,
I
Christina Gracia,
Aye.
Bill Rata,
Aye.
Chair Noel Pfeffer.
Aye.
It's approved.
Thank you all very much. By your motion, you've approved us to reissue it, the Home Repair Disbursement Services RFP. And with that, let's, our next agenda item is setting our next meeting. And I will propose that we look at the week of June the 26th, by which time the two RFPs that we're reissuing now will have closed. And
Well,
what
I'm
do-
in training that week.
You're in training?
Yeah.
We can look at the following week of July 3rd. You're in the CDB GDR training? Yep. All right. July 3rd. What do folks' availability look like Wednesday or Thursday? July 5th or 6th? Maybe July 6th.
My schedule's flexible so far that day.
I'm free between 11 to 2.
I will probably
four.
be on vacation.
Oh, wonderful. Well deserved. Are you on vacation all week?
Yes.
Yay.
I mean, it's a staycation, but my best friend comes to town, so I do it every year. I'm sorry.
That's wonderful. Do you think we can do this, Jackie, with another city councilor, or should we wait until the following week once you're back? Or no city councilor? I don't know. You advise.
Typically, we like to have one of us in these meetings. And then I would have to check their schedules, but let me see. Let me look at my calendar again.
Do you think James?
week- I'm looking at the week before, maybe. Is that too soon?
Bill, could you pop out of your training?
Bill said he was in
Bill
training,
Bill
right?
might be able, could you potentially pop out of your training for half an hour to?
Yeah, since Lisa will be there too, she can take notes on whatever I miss.
Bill, is your like training the entire week?
Yes, except for a couple days, we're gonna stay over. So,
Let's look then at Thursday, the 29th. And Bill, if you can pop out, or Rashonda can also step in if necessary.
I hope to be out of town as well.
It's the summer.
Right?
Yeah, I'm just hoping my doctor gives me permission. But
But
If it helps, I am also not in town, but if that's a date, June 29th is the date we pick, I can step out of what I'm doing depending on the time.
oh goodness. Let's just push out a little bit further to the week of July 10th. I'm hoping that either Wednesday afternoon or Thursday morning, the week of July 10th.
If we could do something in the morning, I would appreciate it. The board breaks on the 14th for summer, and I'm assuming it's going to be pretty hectic.
Okay. How about 9 or 10 a.m. on Thursday the 13th? Or would it be easier to have it more on Monday or Tuesday before we get right up on the board?
I'd prefer Monday morning, but I can make 9 on the 13th work.
How about Monday morning at 10 or 11?
I can do 11.
Monday morning at 11.
yes,
Bill, does that work for you?
Works for me too.
Yes.
Great. All right. Monday, July 10th at 11 a.m. All right. With that, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you all very much for your time today. And we'll get to work reissuing these RFPs.